Welcome back to Capitol Tonight. Following the failure of repealing Obamacare, the conversation in Congress has now shifted to tax reform. And retailers are getting aggressive in the fight over the GOP tax plan, specifically the border adjustment tax. Under the proposal, imports would be subject to U.S. tax, exports would be exempt. Supporters argue it would boost domestic manufacturing, but opponents say it will result in higher prices for consumers. A group of more than 400 businesses and trade associations will be in Austin tomorrow to draw attention to what they say are the policy's negative effect on Texas consumers. And joining us now to talk more about why they oppose this proposal, George Kelemen, President and CEO of the Texas Retailers Association. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Sure, happy to be here.
Well, I know that you guys are going to be talking a lot about this tomorrow, but I just wanted to get your take on why you oppose this. President Trump, of course, ran on Made in America products being able to compete around the world. So why is the Retail Association against this?
Well, it's pretty simple, and it's not just the Retail Association, it's retailers in general and businesses in general. And the simple answer is we live in a global world, a global economy, and there are just some products, lots of products, and resource materials that just we don't produce in this country, or we certainly don't produce enough of to meet the demands of the consumers in the United States. So you have to import them. That's part of the process. And so that putting a burdensome tax on those imports that are part of everyday business for America's retailers is just, it's slapping that tax on the back of retailers, which ultimately will lead to higher prices for consumers.
Yeah, what are we talking about here? I mean, specifically in Texas, retail, gas, groceries.
Grocery, absolutely, all of those. And, you talk about, even if you look at simply trade with Mexico, look at the agricultural products that we import from Mexico. Some of our members, our grocery members, avocados, bananas, coffee, just to name a few. These are all products that our consumers and customers across the state count on it getting at a fair price. You add 20% border adjustment tax to that, those prices go way up for the consumer.
The chief tax writer pushing the plan, Texas Representative Kevin Brady, said yesterday the border adjustment tax will, quote, probably make an appearance in the final tax reform plan. So what exactly, when hearing that, how do you fight back against this?
Well, first let me say that, retailers have had a long and very, very good relationship with Chairman Brady. Mm-hmm. We've known him a long time. We've worked with him on a lot of issues. This is just another one of those issues. At this point, we're agreeing to disagree, and it's our hope that we can work together and find some accommodation that not only satisfies the need for tax reform, because retailers want tax reform as much as anyone else. We just want it done fairly and equitably so that Americans, taxpayers benefit and American businesses benefit.
Is there some kind of, compromise that you're trying to push from
there's not anything
down from 20%, maybe?
There's not anything specific right now. I think the conversation is just starting. I mean, you open the segment by talking about what happened last week on healthcare reform. As we sit here today, that conversation is flaring back up again. So we're not sure it's completely off the front burner, if you will. We know that tax reform and that discussion will heat up soon enough, and that's what all of this is about. It's to really put a marker down saying, look, when it's time to get serious and start talking about tax reform, let's get all the stakeholders in a room, let's all work together, and let's find that sweet spot where we can all walk away feeling like it benefits everyone.
A big group from around the country, as you mentioned, but here specifically in Texas, what are you telling lawmakers at the Capitol, but as well as the congressional delegation?
What we've been telling them is saying that the border adjustment tax is a really misguided attempt at trying to raise some revenue to pay for tax reform. There are a lot of other ways to do this, and I think we need to sit down as all the concerned stakeholders and figure out what that best combination looks like, what that package of reforms looks like, so that one sector of the economy isn't more disadvantaged than another.
As I mentioned at the beginning of the segment, just that the supporters are arguing that it would boost domestic manufacturing. And I've heard some just about how it would even out in the end. Is there a concern up front, but maybe in the long run, if this were to get passed the way it is, that could possibly benefit you or at least get back to normal?
There's definitely a concern up front because this is predicated on currency valuation ultimately balancing itself out. That's hard to predict. You can't put a time or date certain on that, or whether it'll happen to the degree that they're predicating it upon. So that's what's the most concerning about this, that you know, retailers and any business that imports as part of their business and produces a product or sells a product to consumers in America will never catch up and always be behind the 8 ball and having to pass on those costs to the consumer.
And in the time that we have left, what are you guys going to be doing tomorrow? Who all is going to be at this press conference? What are you going to be talking about?
So tomorrow is the official Texas launch of the Americans for Affordable Products Coalition. And that coalition is the coalition of the 500 some odd groups that you mentioned earlier. It's really the entire retail community, a whole host of trade associations representing different sectors from the economy and business sectors that have banded together in opposition to the border adjustment tax. And so there was a national launch in Washington, D.C. a few months ago. There's been a series of statewide launches in different states, and now we're doing the Texas launch. The lead organization in Texas so far has been the Texas Retailers Association, because we represent such a wide variety of size of retailers, from the mom and pop stores on the square all the way to the big box names you know and trust, both on the grocery side as well as the soft goods side. So we've stepped up and we'll be leading the charge, and it'll be some of our members and the association represented tomorrow.
Great. George Kelemen, we will be following that tomorrow as well. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.